Yo yo yo, it's your boy Skilled Fawn, and today I'm here to do a game review and comparison of Star Wars The Force Unleashed 1 and 2. I will be dividing this video into 5 sections. The first will be an objective comparison of the two, looking at 5 aspects of the game. These 5 rounds will award a point to see which is the superior of the two in each of the categories. I could have added many other categories such as the training modes and trials, or even the upgrades for the force/combat skills. I decided to just keep these for now. Maybe in the future I will do a part 2 including that. Next I will be doing a brief summary of the story of each game. And lastly, I will give my thoughts on the game, talking about my likes and dislikes of each game, finishing with my conclusion. Thank you for watching my game review and comparison of Star Wars The Force Unleashed 1 and 2. Round 1, we've got a number of missions in the game, and I'm just going to be starting with Force Unleashed 1, reading them down, then to 2, and then the DLCs, and that will be the same for each of the other rounds. So in Force Unleashed 1, you start off in Kashyyyk, go to Nar Shaddaa. Next is the first of the Jedi Temple, the Trial of Skill, Raxus Prime, then the Jedi Temple, the Trial of Insight, Felucia, Nar Shaddaa, second encounter, the Jedi Temple, Kashyyyk, second encounter, Felucia, second encounter, Raxus Prime, second encounter. Then second to last is Cloud City, followed by the Death Star, where you take on Vader or Palpatine. Force Unleashed 2 is a bit different. We got Kamino starting off, the escape, and then we've got the various Canto Neimoidia missions. You got the Eastern Arch starting off, then the Western Arch, then the arena where you fight the Gorog. Then you travel to Dagobah, do some sightseeing, and talk with Yoda. And then next we got the Salvation, aboard the Salvation, and then the Battle for the Salvation, followed by Kamino, where you fight Vader, and you either follow the light or dark side. Next, we'll go over the DLCs. In the first game, we've got Tatooine first. You go talk to Jabba, fight Boba, and fight 2 versions of Obi-Wan. Then you got Hoth, take out Luke, and the Jedi Temple, which is like a self-reflecting time for Starkiller. And then in the DLC for the second game, there is just Endor. And so totaling up all of these, we got 16 for the first game, and we got 10 for the second game. So the first game, or the first round, is going to go to Force Unleashed 1. In the second category that we're going to be comparing is boss fights. Like in the first category, I will be going over the first game and the second, and then the DLCs. So we got Rogue Jedi, then General Kota, Kazan Paratus, Shaak Ti, the single Shadow Guard, followed by Bull Rancor and Maris Brood boss fight combined, Proxy that switches between all the characters or like boss fights above besides the Bull Rancor, and maybe the Rogue Jedi, but yeah, he'll switch between those, and at the end he switches to Darth Maul, which was so sick. Then you got the group of Shadow Guards, the Darth Vader boss fight before you actually choose light or dark side, and then you got dark side ending, you fight Vader, and light side ending, you fight Palpatine. In the Force Unleashed 2, I kind of grouped all the various droid bosses that were either fire or ice bosses together. They're more so mini bosses, but there's not that many boss fights in the second game, so I figured I'd give them a slot together. If there were like individual ones, I guess like there may be like 5 more, but still. So we got those, and then an actual boss fight is the Gorog, followed by the Terror Spider and Darth Vader. On the Force Unleashed 1 DLC, in the Jedi Temple, you're gonna fight the Sith Warrior, which is the dark side version of Starkiller at that time. And next we got Tatooine. You fight Jabba's Rancor, Boba Fett, and then Obi-Wan Kenobi and Obi-Wan's Spirit. Followed by, on Hoth, you fight Luke Skywalker. He's like a 4 to 6 phase boss fight. On the Force Unleashed 2, in the DLC, we got Endor, and you fight Han Solo and Chewbacca at first. And then at the very end, you fight Leia Organa, where she is a Jedi. Totaling these up, we got 18 for the first game and 7 for the second game. So it's not looking so hot so far for the second game. We'll have to continue and see what we get. For the next category that we'll be comparing will be Force Powers. In this category, since it's the same in the DLC, I'll just be going over the main games and the DLC together. So in the first game, we got Force Push, Force Lightning, Force Grip and Hold, Lightning Shield, Lightsaber Throw, and Force Repulse. These are the main abilities that you have. You obviously have your lightsaber, but that's not really a force power. In the second game, we have Force Push, followed by Force Lightning, Force Grip, Mind Trick, and then Lightsaber Throw and Force Repulse. The only difference in these 2 games for the specific category is a Lightning Shield in the first game is the equivalent of a Mind Trick in the second game. Other than that, they've got basically the same abilities. So it's 6 across the board, so they're tied. Moving on to the next round, we got lightsaber crystals. The crystals are a bit unique in this game, especially the first one, because there's lightsaber crystals and then power crystals. In the second game, they're kind of combined together, whereas in the first one, you could choose a color and then add on to it. But in the second one, you have a specific color that does specific like minor damage, or it'll like actually shock them if you like. It has a shock randomizer effect. Like some of them will make you use your force less, things like that. So in the first game, and I'm just going to be going over the specific crystals first. So we got the black crystal, blue, and then you got the compressed and unstable, and that basically follows the trend for the green, gold, purple, red, and yellow. And then for Force Unleashed 2, you've got red for crimson, chaos, orange, meditation, purple, fury, healing, corrosion, life drain, focus, regeneration, wisdom, incineration, shock, and disintegration. And just comparing the lightsaber crystals, the first game has 19 and the second has 14. And if you include the other power crystals that I mentioned, such as Ilum, Rubart, Rubat, Rusan, Lordian, Sigil, Vexel, Fikran, and Katak, you get 27. So either way, it's a win for the first game. So that round is also going to Force Unleashed 1. Now, the next and final category will be the costumes. And I'm not going to be naming off all of them, I'll just be highlighting a few of my favorites for each game. So for the first game, we got Jango Fett, Mace Windu, C-3PO, Bounty Hunters. This guy's was pretty cool. Sith Stalker armor is just so cool from the DLC. And yeah, there's definitely other great ones in there. In the second game, you got also the Sith Stalker armor. You got the arena combat gear. You got blood armor, which looked pretty sick. Darth Malak, Han Solo, Obi-Wan, Lando. Second one's actually pretty good. And so totaling these, you get 16 for the first game and 18 for the second. So this one's going to go to the Force Unleashed 2. And at the very end, so the final scores were Force Unleashed 1 had 3 points, Force Unleashed 2 had 1, and they tied 1 round. So I'm going to have to give it to Force Unleashed 1 for these comparisons. Now moving on to the story. I'll be briefly touching upon the game's main campaign and the DLCs. Darth Vader goes to Kashyyyk and finds a young boy after fighting a rogue Jedi. Years later, the young boy would grow up to be Darth Vader's apprentice. Vader sends Juno, Proxy, and Starkiller to go after General Kota. After defeating Kota, Starkiller shows Darth Vader Kota's lightsaber. He is now tasked with taking out Kazdan Paratus. The junk planet has a temple similar to the temple on Coruscant where Starkiller fights and defeats the Jedi. Darth Vader then gives Starkiller his final task before they supposedly will kill Emperor Palpatine. Shaak Ti is his next target, and she is located in the world of Felucia. There, Shaak Ti is hiding with her apprentice Maris Brood. Shaak Ti tells her to go into hiding until she returns, which she never does. Next, a boss battle ensues with Shaak Ti near a Sarlacc pit where she is taken down. Darth Vader is impressed with your abilities, but soon after, Emperor Palpatine comes and sees the plot to overthrow him, like all the Sith do, overthrow their masters, and so he casts Starkiller out of the ship's glass. A probe droid is sent to locate and retrieve him. After a brief back and forth between Vader and Starkiller, he is tasked with finding and joining the rebel leaders. He finds a wounded General Kota on Nar Shaddaa and accompanies him throughout some missions. Eventually, it is revealed that Darth Vader was using Starkiller again to get close to the rebel leaders. After turning to the light side, Starkiller ventures to Vader and Palpatine's location to take them down. Depending on your choice, the player will fight Vader or Palpatine. The dark side ending, if you choose Vader, Starkiller will kill Vader at the cost of killing your friends. The cutscene plays with Starkiller turning into a Sith Stalker wearing horrifically binded equipment. The light side ending, where the player, aka Starkiller, fights Palpatine to help his friends escape. He ultimately dies fighting Palpatine, sacrificing his life for his friends. The first of the DLCs, we got Tatooine. After the dark side ending, Starkiller goes to locate Luke Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi. His first location is Jabba's palace. In the palace, Starkiller is forced to fight Jabba's Rancor, which he is swift to defeat. Next, Boba Fett interrupts him to take him down, only for you to force push one of his rockets back at him and kill him. In the trash disposal / junk area, Starkiller finds Proxy, an old droid of his, where they have some banter before his power dies down. Just as Luke and Obi-Wan are leaving, Starkiller ambushes them and has a 2-phase boss fight with Obi-Wan. Next, we got Hoth. Starkiller goes and fights Luke Skywalker. After many battles, Luke's hand is cut off. Then, Luke has to embrace the dark side for his friends to escape, but Starkiller now has a new apprentice. The Jedi Temple. Starkiller goes to a ruined Jedi temple on Coruscant after the Jedi Order has been destroyed. He is tasked with learning the ways of the Jedi through various trials, but to also take down his former shadowy self. Now moving on to Force Unleashed 2, Darth Vader talks and begins training with a clone of Galen Marek, aka Starkiller, and has him fight Juno. After refusing to destroy her, which was a droid pretending to be her, Vader goes to destroy Starkiller, but he realizes this and jumps out the window, free-falling. Next, Starkiller takes Vader's TIE advanced ship and leaves to find General Kota. After locating him in a fighting arena, he is tasked with taking down the massive Gorog. They then kill the creature and escape the planet. Subsequently, they go to the Rebel commanding ship to find Juno, which they hear of her capture. Boba Fett captures her because Darth Vader commanded him to bring her to lure Starkiller out. Starkiller gives General Kota precise codes for an attack on Kamino. In Kamino, Starkiller finds and attempts to kill Vader. With a nearly defeated Vader, the player is tasked with different endings. The dark side ending. Another clone of Starkiller comes and stabs the player's clone. After Vader tells the dark side clone his training is complete and to hunt down Leia Organa. The light side ending. Kota and Starkiller take Vader captive as a prisoner. A dying Juno, with all hope of her surviving loss, suddenly gets up and kisses Starkiller. Vader is seen locked up, where he tells Starkiller, "As long as she lives, I will always be your master." And we get the DLC for the second game, Endor. After the dark side ending, Starkiller is sent to Endor to locate and kill the rebel leaders. He finds Chewbacca and Han Solo. After taking Chewbacca out of the AT-ST, Han shoots to protect his friend, but ends up shooting Chewbacca. Starkiller stabs Han Solo after force pulling him. In the control room, Leia Organa is found. After a 3-phase boss fight, he takes her down while saying, "Die, rebel scum." Next, I will be giving my thoughts and opinions on the game. My opinions on the game are for the most part pretty good. Since I was little, I enjoyed playing them, and even now I get a lot of joy playing these games. Here I'm going to say the things I enjoyed and disliked about the game. So I'm going to be starting with the things I disliked. In the Force Unleashed 1, I've played the game many times, and I always thought that Kazan Paratus was ridiculously OP. On many of my games where I went through on the hardest difficulty, it was Kazdan that took many of my deaths, and I thought to be harder than the final bosses. There are instances where bosses, if you attack them a certain way, it will show you doing damage, but they will do an uncounterable attack back, which is nearly impossible to be able to block in time after attacking, so it is very tough to judge. Especially in the hardest difficulty, it was extremely inimical. Lastly, the bosses are very different, which is good, but let me explain. As I mentioned before with Kazan Paratus, he is an extremely tough boss, but he is the third boss the player faces. Shaak Ti, which the player fights afterwards, is much easier. This could be due to the player acquiring a new force upgrade, Repulse, or because the pus pockets on the ground that stun whoever walks into them in the boss fight arena. There could be many explanations for why this is. Regardless, every time I've played, I've always got my shit rocked by him. Maybe that's just me. I'm curious to hear your thoughts in the comments below. The Force Unleashed 2, I heavily disliked the story and direction the game went. It was interesting for sure, but definitely did not have the passion, drive, and feeling the first game did. The thing that I loved about the first game was how cool the boss fights were, and in this game they are so underwhelming, there are not that many boss fights. The 16-phase boss fight with Vader was somewhat stale and boring. It was somewhat fun, as enjoyable as watching paint dry. I found counterattacks only work, and I could only do consistent damage against him that way. Lightning, lightsaber throws, most basic attacks he will shrug off without much thought. Now I'll be talking about the likes of each game. Force Unleashed 1, I really enjoyed the story and events that took place in the game. From playing as Darth Vader on Kashyyyk to ripping a Star Destroyer out of the sky, it was such a fun and amazing experience. Yes, Starkiller be OP as shit, but he is so fun to play as. The ending was pretty well done too. The choice between Vader and Palpatine isn't decided in one button, as The Force Unleashed 2 does. The various missions the player goes on were extremely cool, and also revisiting them near the end of the game. My personal favorites were the Junk Planet and Felucia. The whole atmosphere on those planets were incredible. Lastly, the bosses and QTEs in the game. The boss fights are so fun and enjoyable, on the hardest difficulty having to come up with strategies and tactics against durable, strong, and at times OP bosses. I found myself loving the Kaz Pratis fight and Maris Brood fight because of how tough they were. Yes, I did say I disliked the game, but only because of how the bosses vary in difficulty throughout the game. You should steadily progress. All of the bosses were cinematic to fight. The fight with Proxy turning into Maul was so nifty, I really enjoyed it. The QTEs were cool, mainly because of what was going on in the cutscene. Though it is funny to see the animations when the player fails. Stabbing a lightsaber through Vader in the front and back was crazy to witness. The DLCs were amazing for the most part. I wasn't the biggest fan of the Jedi Temple, but I did enjoy it. The highlights were fighting Luke and Obi-Wan on Hoth and Tatooine. Next I will be talking about The Force Unleashed 2 and what I like about that. The trials are the challenges of the game. After you defeat the campaign, I thought these to be more fun than the actual main game. Going for the first and 9th challenges were extremely difficult in my opinion, but I found myself kept trying to get better and better times. The DLC was neat. Playing as the Dark Clone that kills the player after the dark side ending was cool to see play out. The boss fights with Han, Chewie, and Leia had great cinematics and some good dialogue. In my comparison and review of these two games, I would have to say that Force Unleashed 1 is the better game. The story, level design, boss fights, etc. are better for the reasons that I previously stated. Out of the many Star Wars games I've played, this is one of the better single-player games, but not as good as KOTOR, in my opinion. The first game feels like it was made with passion and had good themes, and was not at all seen in the second game. Conclusion. Anyways, these are just my thoughts and opinions on the game. I love Force Unleashed, Starkiller, and Sam Witwer's performance. I find myself coming back to these games from time to time, just because of how fun they were. Especially Force Unleashed 1's Kashyyyk mission, playing as Vader was so sick. Thank you for tuning into the video. Please like and subscribe. Comment down below your thoughts on these games, what you liked and disliked from them. Thank you again. Have a wonderful day. Skilled Fawn out.